Hi everybody, welcome to today's live. It is Monday, December 11th, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. And I am joining you from my new computer that I'm still kind of trying to figure out like where everything is. So bear with me because my tech skills are not the greatest, but you all know that. So hey everybody, welcome. As you join us, let me know where you're from. If you're watching replay, let me know that you are part of our replay crew, because I know so many of you are very busy during the day and you just can't jump on live, but I love the questions you ask on the replay. So hello, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Amy Eicher. I am a best-selling author and a chronic pain coach. I lived with disabling and wildly maddening SI joint pain for over 20 years, and I am coming up on my 10th anniversary of being completely SI joint pain-free. I help other motivated women leave chronic pain behind and live the lives that they want through the use of education, self-discovery, and movement. So if you want to know more about that, just let me know in the comments. But today we are talking about SI joint pain. That is very personal to me and was the particular pain that I struggled with for over 20 years and caused me to almost end my life multiple times and put me in bed for many years and caused me to miss out on life really almost until my 40s, from the time I was 18 until I was 38. So if you have ever wondered, do I know what chronic pain is like to experience, to live with, to have rip your life to shreds? The answer is yes. I am intimately acquainted with chronic pain and the disaster and the fear and the pain and going to treatment after treatment and doctor after doctor and not feeling heard and feeling crazy and being told it's in my head and many of the things that I hear you and my clients talk about. So yes, I am acutely familiar with that. And for those of you that don't know, since acquiring COVID in December of 21, I have been struggling with long COVID, which looks a lot like chronic fatigue. Thankfully, there is no pain, but there's a lot of other really random stuff. So I continue to utilize the tools that I teach as a coach and in my Facebook group. So let's start with SI joint pain. What is it? What is it and where is it? Where is it? So your hip bones, your big giant hip bones, come together at the back, and your sacrum is in the middle of those things. So the joints on either side, on your back side of your pelvis, are called your SI joint. In the front is your pubic symphysis. So we have three joints between those two pelvic bones. In the front, pubic symphysis, two SI joints in the back, a right and a left. And most people will usually kind of point to a spot in the middle, like the middle off center of their butt. And they will say it hurts here-ish. That is called the Fortin finger point test for those that are looking for trivia today. And pretty much if you say it hurts there, it hurts there, and you don't really have to do a whole lot more to figure out where it hurts. Okay, so we're going to go into diagnosis a little bit in this video. I have tons of blog posts on the SI joint. I've got like 13 of them. So restoringvenus.com, search SI joint on your desktop. That's working better than your laptop right now, or your phone. Phones and tablets, I'm having some trouble with my website right now. So if you can go from a desktop or a laptop, restoringvenus.com, search for SI joint stuff, and you will find oodles of blog posts on all things SI joint. But today, we're talking about how to tame it, how to fix it, how to get out of all the freaking pain, okay? But we need to know where it is. So it's in the back, off center from your spine, to the right or the left. Usually people have one side that hurts more than the other. Sometimes they only have one side that hurts. Pain associated with the SI joint alone, not lumbar radiculopathy, not hip pain, not other things, just the SI joint. Pain typically is also can go down to like the mid hamstring, but it usually doesn't go down past the knee. That tends to be sciatic pain, which is something that can come with it or be separate. It's like an add-on purchase with your, meal. It's great. Tends to hurt the most when you're moving from sitting to standing, rolling over in bed, going from standing to sitting, sitting to laying, laying to sitting, transitions, because while the joint does move in itty-bitty millimeters, right? Millimeters, not inches, not like huge degrees like our shoulders or our hips, but itty-bitty millimeters. Its job is basically to help forces move from the top of our body to the bottom of our body, or the bottom of our body to the top of our body. It's a joint. It's a joint that helps with the transfer of forces, right? So it's spongy on one side and it's glassy on the other. It's a super interesting joint. It is shaped like a propeller on. It's crazy. It is the only joint like this in our body, and man, does it confuse a lot of people. My neurospiciness, I'm trying to hold in, because I find the SI joint as a joint to be so fascinating now that I don't want to cut my right leg off with a chainsaw anymore because the pain is gone. So that's where it is. People describe it as aching, burning, stabbing. I always said it felt like somebody was trying to stick something between the joint surfaces and separate it. I felt like it was like a flathead screwdriver going in there and somebody was trying to pry it open. As time went on and my nervous system got more and more involved after the initial injury, it kind of started to spread. Like it wasn't that finger point anymore, it was kind of ish. And then I also ended up with a lot of sensitivity wearing clothing, pressures, and what nobody bothered to tell me at the time is as it kind of spread and got more spread out, as it got harder to wear clothes, all those things, nobody bothered to mention that that's actually a sign of nervous system involvement and central sensitivity being the issue, not the joint. Now, the joint and its surrounding tissues is absolutely 1000% where I was feeling the pain. But as with all chronic pain, it was coming from my central nervous system, which is why surgery wasn't really all that effective in stopping that screwdriver-like sensation, was because that wasn't something that was actually happening in my body. It was something I absolutely felt, and I was told it would stop that sensation would stop after I had surgery to lock my pelvis down. And interestingly, that sensation didn't stop. And the things that I continued to experience post-op, while I was getting better, it wasn't in the way that it should have been. But it was those occurrences that caused me to go on this deep dive down what chronic pain is and how it works, and quite frankly, how to get people better. Because, I could have bought lots and lots of cars and several nice houses for what I spent in 20 years on medical intervention. I'd be sitting pretty for retirement now, but I'm not, because I spent it all on medical intervention. So you've got pain back there. You've had it there for a long time. You feel like you're being ignored. What do you do? All right. We want to start by ruling out the bad stuff. Well, Amy, what's the bad stuff? Because, this pain is pretty bad. I understand. I am never going to discount the fact that SI pain is like suicidal levels of pain. I get it. I 1000% get it. You don't need to convince me. I know that it hurts. But the bad stuff are tumors, fractures, infections, and autoimmune diseases. Now, I put a little asterisk by autoimmune disease because those can take a very long time to show up in your blood work. And that's unfortunate. And I've known a lot of people that have had surgery and then they were later diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, which means their bodies are fusing anyway. So they paid for a surgery that they didn't need because too much movement wasn't the problem. They had an autoimmune condition which needed specialized medication and care, and instead they got surgery because when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So we're gonna make sure that we don't have tumors, fractures, infections, and then we're gonna do our best to rule out autoimmune conditions. After that, if your scans come back clean, there's nothing really remarkable, maybe you got some herniated discs, maybe there's something going on with your hips, maybe you got some pelvic floor stuff. Well, that's not, like, nobody wants to hear that, right? Those are all fixable. That is all stuff that can be dealt with and you can get on with your life. If everything comes back and there's nothing wrong at all, be super, super excited. You have figured out your problem. If all of your scans have come back clean and there's nothing broken, there's nothing torn, there's no signs of autoimmune disease, your labs have all come back fine, you are the lucky recipient. Most likely, 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with nervous system sensitivity. And you're experiencing that in your SI joint where you were initially injured, where the thing that started it all happened, no matter how many years ago it was. So, if that is you, welcome. Welcome to the club. It is many, many, many of us. And usually what happens is your story is like mine. You have tried everything. You have gone to physical therapy. You have been the model patient. You have an assortment of what I call my shit pile with sacro wedgies and tape and lotions, potions, and pills. And emu oil was one of the things that I was hoping would stop my pain because they said it had anti-inflammatory properties, and 18 years in, I hoped that would be the thing that helped. But you know what I mean. You've got all of the anti-inflammatory food additives. You've taken every possible over-the-counter medication. You probably have a medicine cabinet full of random medications that your doctors have given you and that you may be on or squirrel away. But injections and maybe you've considered surgery, or maybe you've done surgery for the SI joint and you find that you are still in pain. I'm your girl. I can help you because I did it, and I can help you do it too. Get your life back, because really that's all we want, right? That's why we have the crap pile and the stockpile of meds, and we've gone through all of these injections and whatnot, right? So everybody says, okay, well, Amy, how'd you do it? And I said, well, that's, it didn't happen overnight, because there is no magic bullet to fix chronic pain. And so the first thing I had to do was realize there's no magic bullet to stop chronic pain. And then I took what I now refer to as the Goldilocks approach. I had to find the balance between literally everything. The balance of everything. And that's your Goldilocks principle. To reverse your chronic pain, to get your life back, to live the life you want, to play with your kids, your grandkids, your this, your that, the other, you're going to need to find your Goldilocks spot. Not too much and not too little. Because when it comes to SI joint pain that's coming from central sensitization, which is what I am calling when everything comes back fine and we're told everything's fine except for the stories that our manual therapists tell us about our pelvis being off. That's a talk for another day, but let's just say for the purpose of this video, there is ample evidence that that is actually not what's happening. Okay? If you want more information about that, go ahead and shoot me a comment, and maybe I'll do a separate video this week on why, but I can refer you to the blog post that I wrote that goes in depth about why we know this story about our pelvis being off and coming in and out of joint and out of position is it's a theory that was come up basically in the 1950s, and it is now 2023, and we have worked to prove that that was a true theory, and unfortunately it just isn't. But we do know that there are a million gajillion different type of nerve endings stuck in that SI joint area. So having an overly sensitive nervous system makes a lot of sense for why we're having astronomical pain in that area and all kinds of sensory issues. It actually ends up making more sense than the stuff sloshing around theory. And my caveat to that is, if you have been diagnosed with hypermobile EDS, that doesn't apply to you because your body works differently than the average human. So I am sorry you have EDS and that your body parts are sloshing all over the place. But for those that don't have hypermobility EDS, your pelvis is literally the strongest structure in your body. People have been run over by trains and that joint stays intact. They've been hit by trucks and that joint stays intact. The rest of their body, not so much, but the SI joint is still intact because that ligament complex is crazy. When I was in PTA school, in like 2012 to 2014, I got an opportunity to go to the body exhibit where they had, if you're sensitive, maybe cover your ears for a minute, but they had people without skin on, so you could see all of the muscles and the nerves and the things, and I went just to see the SI joint exhibit, and it was startling. It was startling how thick and how many layers of muscle and fascia and ligament that there are through that complex. So please know that that joint is insanely strong. And we know that. And so the theories from the 1950s really aren't that strong anymore, and the researchers are finding more and more and more that it is due to the amount of nerve endings and changes within the nervous system that is the major issue in that joint, not the stuff that we thought in the 1950s with the innominates moving and flaring and all that stuff. So back to the Goldilocks principle. What is it that you need to keep in balance in order to get out of this mind-numbing pain, right? Well, it's going to be your meds, your movement, your sleep, your stress, your rest, your mental health, and activities that you love versus activities that you have to do. That's not that hard, right? I mean, we can all do that, balancing everything all at once, right? At the end of the day, the nervous system wants safety, and pain by definition doesn't feel very safe, right? The brain interprets pain as you're getting pain because your brain has said this isn't safe. And particularly with pain in the SI joint, what happens is a splinting, right? Your hamstrings feel like roller shades, right? Like they feel like, just tight as get out, or your hip flexors feel tight as get out, right? And you can't get that to loosen. Like maybe your PT stretches you every time you're in there. Maybe you've got stretches you do multiple times a day, but you feel like you just can't keep those muscles loose enough. It's because they're bracing the body because of the sensation of pain and the stories that we're telling ourselves about how unsafe we are to move. So the first thing we have to balance is the safety that we feel in our body and the way that we move, right? I don't mean literally the way that we move, like we don't need to move with a bunch of rules, but we need to understand that we're safe to move and we're not causing damage. And we know that because we had all of these tests and did all of these things and they didn't find anything. They didn't find anything that was catastrophic and needed immediate attention. So if no catastrophic things were found, it is reasonable to assume that you are safe to move. Finding that safety is how that splinting will settle down. When the splinting settles down, it becomes easier to move. When it becomes easier to move, there's less pain and more safety, right? So all of these things build on each other. And the more safety that we feel when we're moving, the more safety that we feel inside of our bodies, that we're not hurting ourselves or creating more damage, or that we're going to be, stuck in pain forever, right? The more that we can move away from those things and towards safety in all of those aspects, the less our pain becomes. Sleep is a huge factor. I talk about it quite a bit. We need to be getting sleep, because when we don't get sleep, that increases inflammation. Inflammation takes up space around our nerve endings, and that sends signals to our brain that things aren't normal, right? Loneliness is a pro-inflammatory condition. The foods we eat can increase our inflammation, right? So our stress 100% increases inflammation and increases our pain levels, right? So when I say the Goldilocks principle is how you get out of SI joint pain, that's how you tame the pain, I mean finding the balance in all of those things to create safety. One of the biggest mistakes that I made in having imbalance in my life, I needed so much work. I needed a relationship overhaul. I needed self overhaul. I needed movement overhaul, but movement was the easiest thing for me to grasp, right? I was the queen of boom bust cycles. I would have a decent day and I would push to get everything done that I hadn't been able to do the month before. I would crash. I would spend another 3 to 4 weeks in bed getting nothing done. And instead of pacing or chunking these things out or asking for help, I just did this cycle over and over again for years and years and years and years. And that's not particularly safe nor smart. It's too much stress on the tissues. It's too much stuff. And then it's too much rest. And it's way too much stress when I'm trying to get everything done and when I'm stuck in bed because the pain is so high. So that's what I mean by the Goldilocks principle. We got to find just right. And when we start out, just right is usually pretty small. There's usually not a whole lot of room for error in our just right. But as we heal and as we get that central sensitization under control, as we get our nervous systems to calm down, as we get our bodies in balance, that is when we get a little bit more room and a little bit more room and a little bit more room, and life starts to get better. Be active in your care. Do not be a passive patient on a table getting injections, having massages, doing exercises that you're told to do, right? None of these things are bad. And if they're helping you, great, continue to do them. If they are not helping you, please stop, save your money. You don't have to. But you do have to find balance. Balance between movement and rest. Balance between loneliness and doing too much. Balance in your relationships. Balance in your body. Balance in your safety. Okay? Goldilocks, finding just right, is how we calm the nervous system to stop the insane pain that is killing us and stealing our lives. If you would like to know more, do me a favor and put Goldilocks in the comments, and I will be in touch via Messenger. So if we're not friends, know that a message will be coming from me if you put Goldilocks in the comments. I hope that this has been helpful to you. I love meeting with you like this, and I'm appreciative of everybody that joined. Thanks for hopping on and spending some time with me today, and I will see you all next week.